They've been called the root of trust. They've been called the cornerstone of trust. What's your take on HSMs and sort of why are they so crucial and what do we expect to see over the next period of time?
So you hit on some core words there, that root of trust. And depending on how you want to put it, we're at the bedrock or the foundation of crypto.
Welcome to Shielded, the last line of cyber defense by PQ Shield, the podcast where we are moving the conversation around post-quantum cryptography from the why to the how. I'm Joe Lintzen, your host, and I'm here to guide you through the challenges, innovations, and solutions that will help your organization stay secure in the quantum era. Let's future-proof your defenses together. On Shielded, the last line of cyber defense at RSA 2025, cryptographic agility is a key discussion point. We interviewed Greg Wetmore, VP Product Development at Entrust, to understand how HSMs act as the root of trust for navigating the quantum transition, especially with the emergence of global guidelines and emergent standards. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe.
We're here today with Greg Wetmore, VP Product Development at Entrust. How has your morning been so far, Greg? I know it's still a little early.
It's great. Yeah, I came in from the East Coast, so I was up early this morning and ready to go.
It's good. Yeah, East Coast, the 3-hour time difference to the West Coast is always an interesting little time shift there. So we're at the RSA conference. Of course, everyone's excited. It's really kicking off today. What's the big thing? What are you most excited about for this year's RSA?
Well, I've got the good fortune of being selected to present in one of the main tracks at RSA, and that's of course difficult to get a session through the judging panels. So I'm really excited for that. Where I'll be in front of the world tomorrow at RSA talking about cryptographic agility.
Well, exciting to be up on stage and talking about crypto agility, which is seemingly in everyone's mind right now, even more so than maybe last year. I think NIST releasing the standards really sort of changed the conversations, at least that what we're seeing talking to our customers. I don't know if that's
Yeah, I know. I 100% agree that last August when NIST released the first standards around post-quantum cryptography, I think of that a bit like the starter's guide, beginning of a marathon or a race, and everyone starts running. And what's exciting this year, 2025, is seeing vendors now coming out with standards-based, compliant, interoperable post-quantum crypto. So I'm talking to my customers really about 2025 as being the year you can really put PQ in production, perhaps for the first time. So it really is, I think, focusing customers and organizations on this challenge. And crypto agility is a bit sort of the secret for how to make this an orderly transition and not a chaotic one.
It's the glue that hopefully is going to glue everything together.
Yeah.
And it's not just one migration. We're migrating from one standard to the next. We're migrating from a standard to hopefully crypto agility in the future so that we're going to be better prepared for upcoming changes.
Absolutely.
So the topic that we wanted to touch on today, of course, Entrust has many different products. One product in the lineup is the hardware security module. We see, and I'm sure you agree, the transition to post-quantum cryptography really is a supply chain challenge. And HSMs are such an important piece of the digital supply chain, protecting keys, protecting the lifecycle of keys and certificates in PKIs, many use cases. So I'd be curious to hear, a little bit of your thoughts around how the HSMs and the Entrust portfolio today help achieving compliance for organizations, but also addressing those needs.
Yeah, as you said, so HSM really is that root of trust inside an organization and sort of the center of most organizations' data protection strategies and approaches. And, you talked about compliance. The regulatory environment today is perhaps more complex than it's ever been. There's sort of the general cybersecurity frameworks out there like NIST CSF or Zero Trust. And in general, those frameworks talk about data protection and they call for encrypt everything. And that, of course, means this proliferation of encrypted data in your organization and the keys and certificates and secrets to protect that growing immensely. When you look at even more specific regulations like in Europe, NIST 2 or GDPR or in North America, things like HIPAA or PCI and PCI's global standard.
Borders into privacy.
CCPA, California Data Privacy Act, they're very prescriptive in controlling encrypted information and how you protect keys. And so HSMs really in all of that, those regulatory and compliance frameworks provide a number of the controls that organizations need to be able to demonstrate compliance, and they're sort of central to some of those core principles. HSMs, of course, provide the secure key storage and the lifecycle management for the creation and use and rotation and destruction of keys. And an HSM guarantees that those keys never leave that HSM in plain text form. So that's a powerful control around how those keys get used. Another part of an HSM's job is to provide fine-grained access control and auditability. So what and who are using those keys? When are they used? What are they used for? Fundamental policies around keys, key types, key life cycles, key usages, all of those things can be enforced by the HSM. And of course, HSMs provide a mechanism to guarantee compliance to cryptographic standards like FIPS 140-3 or some of the criteria. And those are externally validated regimes that prove that the cryptography in your HSM or in your software libraries are, in fact, true and correct. And then finally, I think we're seeing quite a bit of, with the sort of explosion of distributed application architectures and cloud, many organizations thinking about data residency, data sovereignty. And with an HSM, you have a very powerful mechanism to control where that key is. So architectures like hold your own key, or architectures where data sovereignty is important. Again, HSMs.
Because you have a physical box.
Right. You have a physical place where that key never leaves that box in a plain text form, so you know exactly where it's being used.
So talking about compliance and timelines, I think one of the big drivers, certainly for the US, but also globally, has been CNSA 2.0 and their recommendations of algorithms even before this standardized, they had the Stateful algorithm. So maybe you can talk a little bit about how you can help, future-proofing the HSMs for things like CNSA 2.0 and those new libraries needing to be available as well.
Yeah, so I mean, the reality of the cryptographic world is the best practices that are defined through NIST really have become the global standard for the most part for crypto. So the previous NIST Suite B algorithm set, which sort of defined the best practices of crypto before CNSA 2.0, was widely adopted just about every jurisdiction in the world. We anticipate the CNSA 2.0, which is sort of the next generation of that, the next generation of cryptographic best practices, to be equally widely adopted globally, and sort of the basis for all of the internet interoperable secure messaging, secure protocols. And I think what's important to understand is that the next 20 years of crypto is going to be so much more dynamic than the last 20, right? We've had this lucky period of time where for almost 30 years, RSA has just been able to be used like a Swiss Army knife, and 20 years of elliptic curve. And we're certainly anticipating sort of CNSA 2.0 as just being the first of potentially a much more dynamic cryptographic environment in the next 20 years.
That's again why crypto-agility comes in.
Exactly. I'm sure we'll dive into that a little bit more. But yeah, so today our HSMs are CNSA 2.0 compliant. We support those algorithm sets in our HSMs. I wanted to describe a little bit about how cryptography is implemented in our HSMs, because I think it's relevant to this question for sure. So in our HSM, we sort of have three levels, at least in our latest HSM, our Shield 5s, we sort of have three levels where cryptography sits in the HSM. And at the topmost level, we call our code safe environment. That's it's a trusted execution environment that's running inside the HSM, but it's running above the firmware. So that, from the concept of agility, is the most agile environment, fastest to implement new algorithms, potentially implement the customized algorithms or nation-specific or industry-specific algorithms quickly. So our CNSA 2.0, today, you can use all those algorithms in that code safe layer. We just released a few weeks ago, and it was 3 weeks ago, our first NIST standard MLDSA in our firmware. So that's the one layer down. That's the more rigorously defined, higher performance. That's the level that we take through the FIPS 140-3 CMVP, or cryptographic module validation program. So it means it will be validated CMVP crypto. And then our Shield 5s, we actually have a layer below that. we have a crypto accelerated hardware chip. And in our Shield 5s, that's what's called an FPGA, which is a field programmable gate array, which means we can actually, in the field, upgrade the hardware acceleration for cryptographic algorithms, which in my mind is a unique feature and really interesting in the world of post-quantum. So we can get our customers very quickly to using PQ algorithms, whether it's in our code-safe environment or in a firmware. And as we build that hardware accelerated FPGA implementation, then our customers get the benefit from that hardware accelerated versions of post-quantum.
Well, that's also probably an important approach to, we have to think about this as a migration, right? There's a huge install base out there. So you're not going to probably replace thousands of HSMs just to switch over. So that model allows you to migrate over in sort of
So that's a really important point. The vast majority of our HSMs in the field today are PQ ready, so to speak, with just in the field software updates to be able to get PQ, whether it's in code safe or in our firmware. It's only our latest generation in Shield 5s that get the hardware acceleration for post-quantum. But that concept of this isn't a rip and replace, you don't have to load all of your infrastructure in order to get to post-quantum. It's an evolutionary step. That's important for customers. That's a big element of how this is going to be possible.
That, with the understanding that, of course, if you have a code safe module that then supports post-quantum, you can run a FIPS mode. Right. You still have the FIPS environment, right? You still have the physical boundary or its benefits.
So we have, and that's actually well aligned to what most customers are doing with post-quantum today. Most, not all, but most are using post-quantum in their labs. They're doing research. They're doing interoperability testing. They're doing early phase development for their products. And we're sort of right at that transition point between research and prototyping and production. And reflected on us releasing our MLDSA and our firmware. That's sort of that first signal that, hey, production PKI, production key usage inside the HSM around post-quantum is ready to go.
Recorded at RSA Conference 2025, we speak with David Close, Chief Solutions Architect at FutureX, about hardware security modules and the urgent need for post-quantum cryptography migration due to now released NIST standards like FIPS 203, 204, and 205.
This is day 2 of RSA Conference 2025, or day 3, depending on how you count. I'm sitting here with David Close from FutureX. He's the Chief Solutions Architect. How are you doing today, David?
I'm doing good. You're right. It has been a jam-packed week, but I'm excited to be here. And I think the topic that we have at hand is going to be very fruitful and insightful. So it's good to see you. Comes in very high values, but I think organizations are now looking at them as just the default. When you have applications that are performing crypto, centralizing that crypto in a cryptographic service, I think is something that a lot of organizations have started to look at. And HSMs are really at the forefront of that. So PQC is one that gives them the excuse to do that. It's something that FutureX has been very focused on. While we are a manufacturer of HSMs, we also build layers on top of the HSMs that handle different cryptographic services, whether it's data protection or advanced key management or PKI, even HSM management. It's something that we are focused on letting our customers have a centralized cryptographic service that can be consumed by any application, not just their most high value assets.
So you make that available to like sort of the entire enterprise.
Correct.
And all the applications that might make use of cryptography. Now, you do mention standards. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit about that as well, because of course, a lot of this is driven by standards.
It is. So HSMs themselves are regulated by several different standard bodies. Obviously, we go through something called CMVP validation, which is FIPS 140, now -3. We're level 3 validated. There's also in the payment space, you have PCI that governs HSMs. There's different regional bodies that also govern HSMs through something called common criteria. And then all of the algorithms that we support have to go through a certification of some sort. And then the processes and procedures that are utilized in managing your cryptographic infrastructure, depending on your use cases and what industry you're in, are often audited and regulated as well.
Sort of there's a lot of scrutiny on sort of those devices, given that they protect the keys to the kingdom in a very literal sense.
Exactly. So while FutureX is a hardware manufacturer, we also offer services. So organizations can consume our technology through a hosted platform. And that is one that we then take the burden on for these audits and these regulatory requirements. So I like to say we are under perpetual audit by somebody.
So, you brought up the PQC migration and then, the new algorithms that are required. And of course, there's an evolving standard as well, multiple evolving standards, right? I think one that is being discussed a lot, especially North American market, is the CNSA 2.0.
Yep.
So where do you sit with your HSMs in comparison to folks that need to comply to CNSA 2.0, and what's the timeline that is sort of propagated with that?
Yeah. So from the HSM standpoint, the CNSA 2.0 has some heavy requirements related to FIPS validation and utilizing FIPS validated devices. So it's been I think a welcome change for FutureX, because many times organizations that use crypto have no knowledge of HSMs. They don't even realize that there is a solution out there that can protect their keys in hardware in a very secure manner, in a tamper evident and tamper responsive manner. So if your keys are in this device and this device is tampered with either logically or physically, it self-destructs.
Right. It's a mission impossible type scenario.
It's not blowing up, but it does clear the keys and clears the memory segments of your CSPs, your critical security parameters. So CNSA is definitely one, but even on the algorithm side, which is something we're very focused on, because we are very involved in helping develop the algorithms and add comments to how the algorithms are deployed in a practical sense. I mentioned earlier in August, NIST published 203, 204, 205, 206 is something that is on the roadmap with Falcon. It's something we already support via the round 4 submissions, and there's going to be some changes that come up. But it's something we're very focused on. We're a member of many different boards in both the payment space and the general purpose space. And there's a lot of scrutiny right now on what algorithms are utilized.
Yeah. And that's certainly something that is being discussed on a global scale within regional differences and all that, right? So earlier on, you mentioned that, of course, your HSMs are certified according to very stringent, third-party reviews. You mentioned FIPS 140-3, for example. So where do you sit in, having the certified environment and then adding those new algorithms? Like what does that do to sort of like the environment that I'm using that device?
Yeah. So first off, FIPS is very stringent on what algorithms are certified on your device. So when hardware security modules are validated, one of the most important aspects of what is validated is, one, what algorithms are used on that device, and then 2, the constraints around those algorithms. So there are quite a few automated tests that NIST has published for more legacy algorithms, including RSA and elliptic curve and AES. But as part of the PQC deployment, they also issued automated testing frameworks for PQC as well. And so in order to comply and be FIPS validated with the PQC algorithms in your certification, you have to go through these automated tests, and that requires recertification through FIPS. And so when you are looking at HSM providers, making sure your firmware and the model of HSM that you're utilizing is FIPS validated, but not only FIPS validated, it's validated with the algorithms you want to use, is very important, because I think it's very easy for an HSM provider to say, we support PQC.
Right.
Who tested your deployment? Is it complying with accepted test frameworks, and has it been authorized by a third party? Last
Stamp of approval.
Yeah, it's that stamp of approval. And it's something we were very excited about in August when these algorithms were published, because we've supported various PQC algorithms from the different rounds of validation that NIST had. But now we had something that we could actually get a stamp of approval on, where previously it was more proof of concept we were doing, experimental. We work with a lot of very large organizations that have internal groups that were focused on PQC, but now we can focus on practical implementations of PQC algorithms, and we've seen it quite heavily. If you look at where cryptography is used the most, for example, TLS is one of the most widely used practical applications of cryptography, securing communication over the internet or internal channels to over a network. And we are now seeing PQC algorithms deployed in TLS. So one of my favorite case studies that I've seen is with Google and Cloudflare. So Google, the maker of Chrome, and Cloudflare, who fronts about 20% of the internet from a proxy standpoint. With those two players, you have the server and you have the client. And so they are very much in a position to where they can deploy new cryptographic algorithms at the TLS layer and utilize HSMs on the back end for that. And so even today, if you browse to Google with Chrome, if you go to your developer tools and your security protocols and look, you are most likely using ED25519 plus Kyber.
Right.
So it's a hybrid cipher.
Yeah.
And the PKI forum is a forum that is very much involved in PQC with PKI. Asymmetric algorithms are very important for PKI. They're the basis of PKI. And so they, late last year, early this year, they hosted a PQC conference.
Right.
And Cloudflare actually presented what they did with Google and some of the constraints they had with TLS and PQC algorithms, because there's a lot of new things coming with them related to key sizes and signature sizes and complications around protocols that exist. So a lot of practical applications and protocols are being updated to support these algorithms.
Yeah. And I think it's very important that you call that out, because I think a lot of people are not aware that this migration that we're talking about is in fact already in full swing.
It is.
It's already like almost, transparent to the end user, but you're already using those, be it hybrid or full PQC and algorithms in those use cases.
Well, I think a lot of individuals, when they look at their HSM platforms and the algorithms they're using, they may think, well, quantum computers aren't at a place where they can break RSA 2048. And the industry as a whole, experts debate heavily when there will actually be a quantum computer that can break the current algorithms. The problem with that, though, is there's a lot of data that you're protecting today that needs still to be protected in 10 years. Long lived data. And there are nation states and organizations out there that are collecting all this data. And so at some point, they will be able to decrypt that data. And so I think organizations need to look at the data that they are holding, how long this data needs to be secure, because it's
From RSA Conference, Shielded, the last line of cyber defense, explores the future of cryptography with John Ray, Director of HSM Product Management at HAS. We delve into how HSMs provide the bedrock for post-quantum preparedness, the difficulties of migration, and the potential risks of delaying this transition.
Hey, John.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good.
So I'm sitting here with John Ray, Director HSM Product Management at Thales, not Thales, as I know
Thales?
many people mispronounce it. So John joins us this afternoon to talk a little bit about hockey, I think. Is that
Absolutely. Very important game tonight between Toronto and Ottawa. Battle of Ontario.
who do you support, if I may ask?
Ottawa, the Sens.
Galway?
Yes. Yeah.
So is it the crucial game, like one has to.
It is. Toronto could win it, the series tonight, but it's not going to happen.
And what else are you excited about being an RSA? It's your, 150th time?
Oh, yes. Been here many, many times. I think just the buzz, always what's going on, different themes happen every year. And I think we've been talking about quantum and post-quantum crypto for many years, but I think this year it's starting to get a little bit more buzz on the show floor.
They've been called the root of trust. They've been called the cornerstone of trust. What's your take on HSMs and sort of why are they so crucial, and what do we expect to see over the next period of time?
So you hit on some core words there, that root of trust. And depending on how you want to put it, we're at the bedrock or the foundation of crypto. The hardware security module, the Luna HSMs, protect those keys, which are important for everything else. So that root key, that root of trust, that foundation of crypto, protecting the high value keys, which are then used to sometimes encrypt other keys or sign certificates, which are used to in many different use cases, from issuing identities so you can enter buildings, so you can access different services, issuing identities to devices which have software on them so they can connect up to networks, signing the code which is on those devices to ensure that it is legitimate, came from the right source and hasn't been contacted. The root of that is the HSM. Now, the HSM, it sounds like it does a lot, but it boils down to those fundamentals of protecting the keys and performing the cryptographic operations. But it needs an application to tell it what to do. And so it has to integrate with all these other applications as part of that infrastructure and those different use cases that it takes care of.
So that also means, of course, if you have something that is highly integrated with various applications throughout the enterprise, and at the same time, it's hardware that is certified,
Yes.
then upgrading it creates some very specific challenges, I suppose.
Yes. So it's very specific hardware optimized to perform the cryptographic operations and to protect it from side channel attacks, to protect it from hardware-based attacks, to protect it from physical attacks. So lots of different areas which make it special, I guess. Which means it's not so easy to update. We also get certifications on the hardware software combo on the HSMs, like FIPS 140-3, level 3, like common criteria, PCI, that give customers that comfort that we know what we're doing, that we've done it right, and it meets international standards.
This third-party validation.
Yes.
That's simple.
Yes. And those certifications take a long time.
Right.
So updating it, getting the certification keeps us busy.
Right. And then you also, you mentioned FIPS and common criteria. I think those are slightly different types of certifications, like what they look at, or common criteria, I think, looks more at the entire process.
Yes.
FIPS is more like product centric. Right?
Yeah. FIPS is more focused on the crypto and modes of crypto, what algorithms you can use, and authentication to access keys and use the keys. The common criteria, you're right, it follows the whole development life cycle and the process that you follow from start to finish, but still has that crypto component.
Hundreds of thousands of HSMs being out in the field. Like, do you get a lot of concerned existing customers that are like, how are we gonna migrate? Like, what is the biggest concern that you hear in those projects?
So the two questions we get asked is, are you going to implement them? And the second question is, do I have to buy new hardware? Right. The answer to the first one is yes, we are going to implement them. And that's, we need to keep up. We need to give our customers the opportunity to do this without requiring the purchase of new hardware. Now, that being said, be completely open, is the hardware that exists today was optimized for RSA, lift to curve, etc.
So, including all the side channel protection.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So you'll be able to perform them, but the performance is not going to be the same. So for that, you'll need to buy new hardware, and that's If you look at any other hardware-based product, over time there's a life cycle, and you need to update it to take it to use it in with new applications.
Yeah, like one of the regulars replacement cycles for any type of hardware employing. So you're probably in the range of 5 to 7 years.
Yes,
Something like that.
between 5 and 10 years.
Yeah. It's a problem with HSMs, they don't break. Right. Because they're designed to not break.
It's true. It's true. We have had, I've heard customer stories of an HSM, an older version of our HSM, just working. And then somebody calls our support line and says, I don't know any of the passwords or have access to any of the tokens to be able to authenticate to this HSM. It's just been running.
Right.
Yeah. And the staff turnover has happened over time, and they get into a problem.
It becomes this mythical piece of equipment.
Yes. So let that be a lesson to everybody, that durability and reliability of equipment might be there, but you still have to test your infrastructure and your backup and restore capabilities, and make sure that you have staff that knows what they're doing.
It's where process and people come into.
Yes.
Yeah, the product is only that one little piece of that whole equation.
Yes.
And then I think earlier you mentioned that, of course, HSM being sort of I think you used the term bedrock like that. But then, of course, it ties into applications and, key management. Certainly is one area, managing the life cycle, because every key has a life cycle. Right? Maybe you can speak a little bit about that aspect of the HSM, but then also sort of the environment it runs in.
I'm not sure if this will answer that question or cover that topic, but you said earlier, the HSMs protect keys and perform the crypto, but still need an application to tell it what to do. So there are, I'll say, thousands of applications that talk to HSMs using the standard APIs like PKCS 11 or OpenSSL or Microsoft CNG or Java. So different ways to communicate with the HSM. Like us, Thales, we have over 400 different partners, right? That use our HSM, and with those APIs, there's lots of custom applications that could be great. So we have to make sure that we work with all those partners to update their applications in this new PQC world, so that they can communicate with the HSM appropriately.
So that's it. Besides needing to migrate the actual product, it's another layer of migration for a vendor like Thales to work with your partners to be able to say, yes, we're interoperable, and we have those new PQC outlets.
Yes, it's been key. We've definitely been presenting the message that can't do it alone. Right. We have to work with everybody, our competitors and our partners, and standards bodies to move to a post-quantum world. If we do it by ourselves, it doesn't help anybody. Right. So we all have to work together to figure this out.
Fresh from RSA conference, welcome to Shielded. Today's episode delves into the vital subject of post-quantum cryptography migration. Our guest is Kevin McLeod, Senior Director of Product Management at Untouched. We will be exploring how hardware security modules serve as the foundational element of trust for managing this transition and enabling cryptographic agility.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Kevin, how are you?
I'm good. Great to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. Yes. Yeah. So we're here at the RSA show, and I'm talking to Kevin McLeod from Untouched. He's a Senior Director of Product Management. So how's your morning been?
It's been good so far. Though trying to find a Starbucks that doesn't have a queue for a quarter of a mile.
So what are you most excited about for RSA this year? I know it's always different.
Yeah, it's always good to see what the vibe is, what the focus is for the show. It's different every year, and it's I think post quantum is going to be a big topic.
Yeah, I think probably 2 years ago I looked at the agenda in RSA, and there was like one talk that had PQC as a topic, and then last year was I think almost 10, and this year I think it's probably every other 10 months.
Yeah, exactly. it's almost every conversation you have with customers and partners, the PQC topic comes up every time.
So one thing that gets talked about a lot with that migration is that in fact we're probably not migrating from just a set of algorithms to a new set of algorithms, but the term of crypto-agility is used a lot. Maybe you can speak a little bit to that and share your view on that. And
well, I think we're seeing perhaps for the first time quite a long while really the evolving landscape of cryptography, and what was deemed to be secure, I mean, is deemed not to be secure in some future instance, and then we're going to see more algorithms that come through the certification route and the encryption analytical route and start to be taken as standard algorithms. And so I think it's important from a vendor perspective and a user perspective to be able to be sure that you can migrate from one set of algorithms to another set of algorithms in a secure way, and enable you to continue to keep your applications secure. So I think it's important, this crypto agility, the ability to update your suite of algorithms without having to change it about, right? Just as, firmware.
Oh, right. It's been replaced.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, it's a big investment to buy hardware, and you don't want to be then having to change it out. And not only from a cost perspective, but just from the sheer, scalability of the operation. It's been able to get into your data centers, and then, some customers have many hundreds, possibly thousands of HSMs, and it's not something you can just overnight change these in if you had the money to do so.
So is that a concern that you hear though? Is that a question that you get, especially the ones with the large install base? They feel like, we're gonna.
Exactly. Yeah. I think even for some of these large install bases, a firmware upgrade is quite an onerous task, and so making the upgrade process straightforward and making it enable you to be continue to operate with different versions in sequence, so you can sort of roll the upgrade over a period of time. It can take many months, sometimes a year, for some customers to get into their whole install base to update. So I think it's really important that the upgrade process is simple, but absolutely that you don't have to change the hardware out, and that you can just do a straightforward firmware upgrade to get access to the new algorithms. And then obviously the process of migrating from one set of algorithms to another is not a simple process either. So providing the support to enable customers to change simply, and the standards like PKCS standards and gel standards, maintaining that agility and adopting the new algorithms into their APIs is clearly part of the same problem space.
So it's really agility in different layers.
Yeah, throughout all the layers of the stack, absolutely.
Algorithms, but then also the interfaces, the product.
Yeah, and all the standards to support that. Absolutely, yeah. It's an integrated process throughout the industry. We all have to be aligned with each other, and I think we're seeing a bit of lag in some of the PQC standards. We're still waiting for the latest version of PKCS 3.2 to be standardized. And I think that agility within the business to move quickly is something that we need to learn to do better.
With PKCS 11 being probably the most widely used interface to connect with HSM.
Yes, exactly.
Even though I think it was originally developed for smart cards.
Yes, it's
abused and
and this standards for exactly. And I think some of the other advantages, not necessarily sort of crypto agility directly, but also the agility within the HSM environment to be able to augment the capabilities of the HSMs with sort of extensions, so that you don't have to wait for the full firmware suite to be updated and the full firmware suite to go through the certification. You can provide an additional firmware module, with the algorithm implementations in a relatively quick way. It's just an extension loaded onto the HSM. Once you have the firmware running, it makes that ability to adopt the new algorithm, or at least even just try them out, so much more simple without having to all the firmware upgrades to our state.
And that's sort of a concept that the architecture of the Untouched HSM allows.
Yes, with the Untouched SDK, you can build a initial firmware module. You've got access to these sort of internal APIs, so you can take advantage of some of the acceleration options without it feeling like it's an external application inside the HSM. This is an internal extension to the firmware. So the flexibility that offers, and it also allows you to not only just adopt the algorithms, but also to build some logic into when you want to use and maybe build composite commands up, so you can perhaps build the composite signature up with a classical algorithm and a crypto algorithm. You can build all of that firmware into one atomic call. So it gives you the extra flexibility to, sort of give you a gradual migration path or a approach that doesn't need too much heavy lifting all in one go.
Although if you change on the firmware level, that you don't have the ability to run in FIPS mode anymore with the device.
Yes. So, and I think, in the current sort of environment, a lot of people are in the experimental phase, like a proof of concept phase. So being able to provide something for them that's quick and easy to adopt while they're in their POC states or their test states, and then when they're ready to migrate to a full production environment, then by that time the algorithms are in the firmware and they've been into the certification process. So you can do these things in parallel. You have to wait for everything to get through the certification.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of concerns about depending on which algorithm, which use case, performances or certificate sizes and all those things. I feel like all that is getting flushed out and through those people. Yes, is that something that you're seeing as well?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. I think we're seeing and we're learning as well as the customers that the use cases and the edge use cases are starting to exercise the HSMs in new ways and the algorithms in new ways. So it's enabling the whole industry to learn about how to adopt PQC algorithms. And there are some challenges with some of the algorithms. It's not necessarily the newer MLPM and MLDSA, but with the stateful hash-based algorithms, there are some difficulties associated with adopting them in the market. When you've got to be careful about retaining state and resilience. The impact of losing an HSM can be fatal to your application if you haven't got the ability to state. So again, Untouched have a patented solution in this area that does allow you to securely share state across HSMs, so can build in the resiliency. So if you do lose an HSM, that still means you've got design capability in other HSMs, and it really allows the application to operate in a way that's for non-stateful. There really is no difference from the application perspective from a non-stateful and a stateful, and that's because of the HSM is really just sharing that state under the hood.
And those stateful algorithms are LMS and XMS, and they are part of the CNSA 2.0.
It's suite of algorithms. Yes, exactly. And I think they're perhaps a bit more mature in the market, and so I think some customers are feeling that they should go with a more mature algorithm, so they're looking to use those, but they do come with some challenges. Yes.
So I think we wouldn't do HSMs justice if we didn't also speak about key management, because obviously they're one important building block for a key management solution as well. So maybe you can speak a little bit about Untouched's approach to that challenge.
Well, yeah, I think from key management perspective, it's important to be resilient. It's important to offer different types of key management approach. So we can offer either key management that keeps it stay on the HSM and permanently reside in the HSM, and if that's an important feature for customers to always have the HSMs in the hardware, then that option is available. But perhaps more scalable environment where you want to store the keys outside the HSM and allow you sort of both resiliency but then scalability to share keys across multiple HSMs, then there's might offer an option to be able to use an external key store key database to access the keys. So and obviously you need to provide the controls and ensure that the policy control is there so that the keys are only available for use by authorized users. And so with Untouched's new Entrust HSM products, where we can run multiple containerized HSMs in parallel on the same hardware, then each of those CXMs has its own root of trust, has its own encryption keys, excuse me, and the key databases are tied to the CHSM. So one CHSM is cryptographically isolated from other CHSMs of the key source. So you've got full control over who has access to your keys, and providing that, the different authentication options, whether you want to do it as a password type controls, right up to smart card authorization. So give you the full range. And again, that's the ability to set that. The CHSM means that the customers have full flexibility. So if they do have perhaps different levels of assurance for different applications, then you can set the controls appropriate to the assurance levels that you want for your application.
Now, when you say external key database, does that still reside within the FIPS boundary? How do I have to imagine that?
Well, it's protected by the HSM. So the secrets that protect the HSM are within the FIPS boundary. So to all intents and purposes, from a certification perspective, the key database is part of the FIPS certification. So that you're not embedding the keys outside the control of the FIPS and certified HSM.
That's important with the HSMs always to consider. Of course, we spoke about that earlier with PQC. It's going to be a while until we have a state of fully validated HSMs.
The last of all, yes, exactly.
So, in those conversations with your existing, but also with new customers, like, what are some of the challenges that they share with you? What are some of the things that you're hearing? With regards to migration, but then in particular, of course, with regards to HSM usage.
I think there's always a challenge with combining the constraints that hardware implementation brings you, and trying to balance security and flexibility. Right. So I think the challenge our customers and all customers have is trying to get the right balance. Right. You can make things super secure, but then it gets unusable. And of course, you can make it very usable, and it's not secure. Yeah. So it's getting that balance right. And I think with Marco with the GPHSM, seriously, we're trying to get that balance right, where it has the flexibility to be set up at the assurance levels you want. You can have it running in a strict FIPS mode where you've got all the FIPS restrictions. If you want to use some of the algorithms that are outside of that, you can run it in a non-FIPS state. You could also add extensions with the SDK as well. So you've got the full range of options from a certification and from an assurance level perspective. Doesn't really reduce the security of the keys per se. But obviously, if you're using weak algorithms, then that's obviously not going to be good for security. But it's important that in some industries they're still using some of the algorithms that other industries believe shouldn't be used, and so you have to provide the level of flexibility.
The quantum era is already here. With the right tools, the right knowledge, and the right mindset, together we can face it head on. To find out more about PQ Shield and how our cutting-edge solutions can help you secure your data against the quantum threat, visit pqshield.com. Make sure to search for Shielded, the last line of cyber defense, in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. Don't forget to click subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at PQ Shield, thanks for listening.